Our JMA family, we are back, and today we're going to be covering one of the fundamental courses that we need for our businesses to grow and to scale, and for us to be able to live out our ideas and our burning visions and burning desires, and that is going to be focusing on business credit and business funding. And so the objective of today's lesson is to make sure that you all have a great understanding of business credit and how you learn and to learn strategies on business funding and how to fund your businesses, okay? So let's talk about business credit today, first and foremost. And the various forms, right, of business credit. Let's grab a new marker real quick. All right. So when it comes to business credit, it's very similar to personal credit standards or personal credit definition, the ability to make payments over time, right? So we talked about that in the real estate course. I'm sure King Will's talked about that in the C course, the credit course. So with business, it's the same thing. It's the ability for your business to make payments over time and on time, right? That's an E. There we go. So it's the ability for your business to make payments over time and on time. And what this does is it starts to establish this credibility with particular creditors that allow for your business to be in position and be compliant and be accessible to more capital, to more credit, right, to more funding and financing. All right, and so there we're gonna not only talk about just the general business credit, we're also gonna be talking about giving you guys an actual checklist in your resources we're gonna go over together that will put you in position for business funding that we do here at JMA. So first and foremost, I want you all to understand one of the most popular business credit entities, right? So there's multiple entities that report business credit. You're usually going to hear about Dun & Bradstreet, and you talk about getting your DUN number, right? So you're going to hear about Dun & Bradstreet most often, and with Dun & Bradstreet, they give you what's called your Paydex, right? Your Paydex is kind of equivalent to your FICO score, if you will, on your personal side, right, of your credit. Now, when it comes to business credit, a lot of it's going to be established or initially leveraged by your personal credit, and then inevitably you work your way into your business having credit all on its own without you personally being a guarantor or having any kind of liability or securing or backing up that debt, right? And so the goal is to work our businesses to a space where they can receive their own funding and own financing, and where we personally do not have to be liable for anything involved in the business, right? And so, one thing to note with the Dun & Bradstreet is that majority of the times when you're getting educated on business credit, most folks are going to focus on a Dun & Bradstreet number, which banks will use to verify your information, but less than 90% of the time do banks actually use your Paydex for approvals. So this is not actually the bureau, if you will, or entity that banks are using for approvals. They're typically using your Dun & Bradstreet number or your Paydex number to verify your company's information. So second, there is, as we have Experian for our personal credit, there is Experian Business, which is another reporting agency. These are all reporting agencies, again, for your business and its creditors, right? And then outside of Experian, we have Equifax as well. Business, again, more reporting agencies that report what your company is, if it's accurate, if it's on time, what its history is, what your max is, what your limits are, right? This is all the credit reporting for your business that helps you to establish this credit over time by you making payments on time as you apply for different business loans, business cards, and extensions of business credit. These things get reported to different bureaus depending if that creditor reports to these bureaus, right? So if you apply for a certain business line of credit or a business card, or if your business is getting a certain type of inventory or factoring or whatever it might be, that particular agency may or may not report to any of these bureaus or the other ones that we're going to be naming. And so as they report, that triggers, even if you're denied, it still triggers this bureau or agency to now register your business and put it on its radar as a legitimate business within these entities. So you may start with some denials as your business is new, but there's ways that we'll work with you on and we'll cover us in our credit course in which you can start to ensure that you establish business credit. It may start with leveraging some of your personal credit as you build the business and inevitably letting your business be able to fly on its own. And so we're also going to talk about SBFE. Right, so this is another agency, which is the Small Business Financial Exchange. All right, another bureau that reports. And then this is more of a specialized and kind of niche agency, but PayNet is one that specifically does reporting in the auto industry when it comes to financing automobiles. If you have a dealer's license, you're looking to get into that space, PayNet is where auto industries report any creditors or credit activity with particular companies, right? And so these are the bureaus that we look to get our businesses recognized by and to establish payment history with so that we can start to build business credit, which then allows us to tap into that credit for leverage, financing, funding, and other opportunities. And so I want to dive into several funding mechanisms, and then we're going to kind of come back to this business credit portion and how do you set up a business to be compliant, right? Which is the key thing. Most folks don't understand how to create a compliant business so it is recognized by these bureaus and that when your banks check, you have everything that they are looking for already up and running, already recognized, and so that way you are giving yourself the best shot to be approved for your funding. So when it comes to funding, there are several ways, literally, in order for you to get your business financed or funded, right? In order for you to secure capital. So the first and foremost, the easiest way, so we talk about funding, right? Funding your dreams, funding your business, funding your passion. So one of the most and easiest and obvious ways is simply off your own earnings and savings. This is you simply getting to work, whether it be in your business or a pre-existing business or in your 9-to-5 job or whatever it may be, or if you inherited some money and you got some savings, it's literally just you bootstrapping it, you creating a budget, and you funding your own business out of pocket. The great part about this is that you don't owe anyone any debt. There's no interest you got to pay. There's no liability or even control that is extended to anyone outside of your reach or what you want to give up. So that is the benefits of it, right? Is that you are, so we'll kind of write some of those down. So you're debt free, right? There's typically this will help you maintain control. There's no one pulling any strings, so you have a lot of flexibility in your business. Right, by your own earnings, your own savings, funding your own, and now you have full equity, within your business. Now, so that's some of the pros. Now, some of the cons to this are you are exposed, right? You have all the financial exposure. So if anything goes wrong, it's all on you. There's absolutely no leverage, right? So you aren't risking the bank's money or TBM or OPM, other people's money. Again, this is all on you, and you're taking on the full liability of what happens with your business, right? So that's kind of the con of you using your own earnings and savings in order to fund your business. And then it doesn't give you much flexibility either to if you want to invest in other businesses, real estate, opportunities, etc. Especially if you're depleting those earnings and savings. Depends how obviously how deep you go into your earnings and savings. So 2 is the personal loan, right? So a personal loan is simply is usually in a form, it could be word of mouth and a handshake, but it typically is in the form of a promissory note. And so you and someone else would make a promissory note. Right, through your attorneys and legal team that basically says, hey, I, Jay, promise to pay back XYZ, this amount of money and this amount of time frame, right? So it would be the amount, the time frame or term, and at whatever interest rate, if there's interest. Or you may say, hey, look, I need $100,000. I can pay you back in 5 years, and I'll pay you 10% per year on that $100,000. Or you could say a flat fee. I'll pay you $10,000 or $5,000 a year on that $10,000 for the life of those 5 years, right? And then have whatever kind of clauses you want if you don't pay, what happens, et cetera, et cetera. So promissory note is another way that could work. The great part in a pro about a promissory note is that this does not involve equity, right? So it does not involve equity or control over your company, right? This is simply someone loaning money for typically a rate of return and a payback in the company, right? So this has nothing to do with management, with equity, with power control, with ownership. This is typically someone looking to make money on their money, right? And so you still keep your flexibility. And the other cool part is now you've used leverage, right? So you're using leverage and you are not fully exposed. Right? And so if things go wrong, it's not your capital, your earnings, your savings on the line, which also ties into our cons, right? And this is with when we're getting any funding or financing or using other people's money or TBM, the bank's money. The con part is the reputational risk. And what reputational risk is when you sign on a dotted line, when you agree to take capital, financing, funding from a third party, from another source, if things go wrong, right, on the pro side, you didn't lose your money, right? So you still have your own capital to, invest, maneuver around with, recover, etc. But if things go wrong, the reputational risk could be very, very crucial towards your business, towards future endeavors, towards how you're looked at, perceived in whatever particular industry, especially depending on who this person is you receive capital from, if they're influential, if they have a loud voice, if they are, a part of, an industry or a community. And so even if things didn't go wrong because of your fault or a failure on your end, you didn't scam anybody, you were not fraudulent in what you've done, but the industry or the market took a turn or a dip, or legislations may have changed, or inventory may have changed, or, right? So what can go wrong will go wrong many times in real estate and in business, and we can't control all the variables of what goes on in real estate and business. But when you receive and take other people's capital, unless they're really a mature investor, most people don't want to hear, why, right? Especially, again, a more mature investor understands what they're getting into. They understand that, hey, I'm investing for a return. I understand investments aren't guaranteed, and I understand I could lose everything. That's the nature of investing. But not all folks, and most folks are not mature investors. And so many times if things do go wrong, they will, especially now with social media, go to social media and they'll complain and they'll bash you and they'll say all these different things that unfortunately negative news catches traction and it creates smoke. And most people believe where there's smoke, there's some kind of fire. And so you do take on reputational risk that could affect your longevity as a businessman or woman based on, again, you taking on a promissory note or private capital. So that's just something to certainly look out for and think about. And one thing I like to do to kind of mitigate, right, because it's all about limiting our exposure and mitigate that, is to have the person you're in a promissory note with sign disclosures, make sure everything's very, very transparent, and make sure that you make the risk very, very known, and that they sign documents that ensure that they are aware of the inherent risk, right? This is a small way, but that still doesn't stop them from kicking and screaming if you lose all their money, okay? So outside of that, many of you have heard of the SBA, right, for small businesses, and we have the SBA loan as well as just your, which is usually backs most business loans, but you could get just private business loans from banks. Now, the SBA is theoretically cool because they offer very good interest rates. They'll loan you capital. You can literally get millions of dollars for businesses. And I want to make a full disclosure, right? Super full disclosure. I am not talking or walking anyone away from attempting, trying, or executing an SBA loan. Not whatsoever, because I'm sure there are many, and I read about them, success stories of folks who have received capital from the SBA, right? Or from banks backed by the SBA. It has been my personal experience that even with great financials, even with millions sitting in the bank, when it comes to getting an SBA loan, they underwrite very, very detailed. They are very, very critical. They are very, very conservative. And I've personally not met anyone in my career who has, maybe one person said they got one. No, they got approved. I don't even know if it actually went through. I got approved for an SBA loan for $1.3 million, and in weeks they canceled the loan because of market fluctuations. So the pro is if you do pull it off, it's typically cheaper money, right? So it's inexpensive usually to do. Again, the pro is you're not so exposed of your own capital, right? You're using leverage. But the con is, honestly, it's time. I just time and the effort and energy usually is wasted. I just haven't seen, again, I'm not saying to really discourage you. I want you to try what you believe in, or you know someone has a success story, you get an SBA consultant, all that. But just understand they are very conservative in their underwriting. And you have to show typically all your documents. W-2s, pay stubs, reserves in the banks, business plan, all those things, which is not a big deal. But, for some of us it's not, for some of us it is. But, again, they're just very, very conservative in their underwriting criteria. So now I'm going to go flip over. I'm going to talk about a few more of these types of opportunities. So we have venture capital, which you'll often hear called VCs, venture capital firms. Venture capital firms are, private firms that pull together money from investors, hedge funds, all types of funds, or wealthier people, or incubators, or philanthropists, etc., who look to invest and infuse capital in good business ideas, many times startups, businesses that have not, necessarily earned a lot or been around for a long time, and to infuse capital into deals, but typically in exchange for equity and some kind of partnership, ownership, and control, right? So the pros are that venture capitals will often invest in startups, And on the SBA side, they often will not invest in a startup. They would not invest in a new idea. That's going to be very, very difficult. But venture capitals will invest in startups. These are, I would say, very flexible institutions, right? In regards to underwriting, if they believe in your deal, they'll fund, your operations, marketing, right? Inventory, etc. But the cons are that they are going to be looking for equity, ownership, control in many cases of your entity, or a large stake in your entity, depending how much capital they're giving you, depending how much leverage you have, how much success you have, how much you're willing to give up, right? It's all negotiable. But venture capital firms will typically be a little more aggressive, but the money is out there, and they will many times invest in new ideas, right? And so, and sometimes a venture capital or venture capital dollars can just be one individual who's just a private investor, or what's called sometimes an angel investor, who just believes in business ideas, and when they see something they like, they invest in it for whatever terms you agree upon, right? So that's another way to fund your business, through an angel investor, which is again somewhat synonymous with VC. Another way, which kind of comes back to you and your assets. This is why we love investing in real estate early, so that it builds some appreciation, and that appreciation many times, plus that principal pay down we discussed in our R course, that ends up being equity. So a lot of times you can, right, leverage your equity in homes or properties, right, or any kind of properties. So you may have a real estate asset, and that asset is appreciated in value. You paid some principal down, and then over time you're able to tap into, as we taught in our R course, through a refinance, home equity loan, or home equity line of credit, tap into that equity or portion of it and be able to use that equity to fund your businesses, right? And so the pro to that is that you have the control, right? You get to keep your equity, well, the equity of your business, right? You're putting your asset to use, right? So you're using leverage for your asset. You're keeping the power of your business, right? And so you are recycling your money. And then many times, this can be cheaper money as well, because now you're getting a home equity line of credit or a refinance on a property. So if you refinance a property and get a 4.2% rate or 4.5% or 5% rate, and then you use that capital from your refinance to invest into your business, you're now investing into your business at a 5% interest over 30 years. It's gonna be hard to get a business loan at a 5% interest over 30 years, or VC, or even promissory note. So you actually get cheaper capital extended over a long term by you leveraging your equity to invest in properties. And then on the con side of our equity, now you're talking about the fact that you are tapping in or exhausting or utilizing anyway other equity, right? Or access to capital, which is all your risk, right? Still all your risk. So although you're still leveraging the bank's money to some degree, you still have some liability to the bank when it comes to your responsibility to pay it back as a personal guarantor, facing foreclosure, etc. And so you didn't really totally spread your risk out when you tap into your own equity, although you're still using the bank's money. So I still am a fan of it, but you still have, again, a lot of liability in some cases. So tap into your equity. But I think it is a preferred or really good method. Then we go into 6, which is deal syndications. And I want to put an asterisk right here because this is really why you guys came here, and a large part of why our course and our RBC curriculum is so relevant and really beats everybody else. And that is a syndication, or how you organize, manage, facilitate a company. It looks like what we described earlier. So one is, we want to prepare you here at JMA to be the best manager, syndicator, or what's called sponsor of a deal or opportunity. Your company is what's going to facilitate and execute whatever the opportunity is, right? A real estate building, a business, or whatever that is. Your company is going to fund, buy, facilitate, own, flip, develop that opportunity. But in order to have a successful company, we know we must meet our ABCD quadrants, right? And maybe we should call it a RBCS or something. I don't know. But we'll call it ABC for now. So we know the A is our credit. We know we have our operations. We know we have our cash. And we know we have our experience and expertise, right? No business is going to function well and properly without having at least 3 out of 4 or all 4 of these components, right? You're looking to scale and grow. So the goal of syndication is for you to be the sponsor, is what it's called, the manager and sponsor. You're the manager of this company. You are the sponsor of this deal, this opportunity. You are the syndicator, facilitator, organizer, etc., the maestro, the quarterback. And the goal is, if you want to fund your business, and you may have the operational experience, you may have the expertise, right, because you learned it here at JMA, or the experience because you've been in that industry before, but you don't have the cash, you need to be able to bring in cash partners, whether it be VC, whether it be promissory note, whether it be the equity of someone else's house, whether it be through 401k or IRAs, right, or leveraging their pension accounts, right, or whether it be through leveraging your credit or someone else's credit as a credit partner. You need to be able to leverage this credit to then be able to infuse cash and capital into the business to fund, facilitate, develop this opportunity. And it's your job to be that key maestro. That's all we're teaching you how to do. This is how you can create and facilitate any business out of thin air, right? And so with syndications, the pros are that you can create opportunity and money out of thin air, right? Literally, you just thought of it, you pull these pieces together, it literally can happen, right? You can limit your exposure. And you are ultimately being a master at leverage, leveraging talent, resources, capital, credit, etc. The cons are, there's many moving pieces, depending on how many people you got come in. And there's that reputational risk involved with so many pieces. And you have to be very knowledgeable and very focused as a manager and as a sponsor, right, to be able to facilitate the organization in a way in which it should be organized. Now, your next point is 7, which is business credit. Now, we're running out of time in this lesson for me to fully cover business credit. We do have a business credit checklist here for you, and Will covers the entire business credit deep dive in our credit curriculum. But the function is, with business credit, what we offer here at JMA, once you establish your personal credit and you become compliant using the same checklist as in your student resources, following it 1, 2, 3, we give you every link, everything you need to do to establish your business, from getting your DUNS number, to getting your virtual address, to getting your phone number, to making sure the business is reporting with all the agencies, to making sure you have your business bank account and EIN number, all the things you need for banks to look at you as compliant. Once you do that, you can literally take a brand new business, just weeks old, and get unsecured, uncollateralized, meaning there's no collateral. You don't got to put up a house. You don't got to put up money. You don't got to put up jewelry, cars, assets, right? Stated income. You don't even got to prove how much income you make. No W-2s, no pay stubs, and you literally can get tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of dollars of funding just leveraging your business credit, even backed by your personal credit on a new business, existing business, right? A business that's been around for 5 years. We literally have seen students get over $300,000 of unsecured, uncollateralized funding just leveraging this piece. When you get really good at that, that can be your capital based on your credit, or while you build your credit, because we know all credit can be repaired, restored, and rebuilt, or this could be a capital or credit partner that you leverage their business funding to be a syndicate partner in your opportunity, right? So that checklist is there for you, and we covered more in our C class, the credit of the RBC. See you next lesson.